And it's a good day to you this day, dear time. How are you all? Once again, we will take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for allowing this connection to be made through this gateway and in this manner at this time. Once again, each and every time you allow our civilization to form a bridge, to form a link through this telepathic modality with your civilization, and allow this communication to come through this particular medium, this window, this gateway, we then get to experience through each and every one of you, through our interactions with each of you, that many more perspectives of creation, and this interaction allows us to experience an expansion of all the different ways that the infinite can express itself, and so we thank you for this expansive gift. We would like to begin this transmission, this day of your time, with the following idea of consciousness. The idea now, of course, is that there is still going on your planet, as we perceive it, as we listen in, so to speak, much controversy still about the idea of what is consciousness, where does it come from, is your physical brain producing your conscious mind, or does your consciousness, in a sense, exist before your physical brain? Now, from our perspective, from our point of view, it is more the idea of the latter, in that there is a consciousness that exists prior to the idea of physical manifestation. And many of the things that you create in your technology on your planet, in some sense, gives you a reflective clue that this is so. For example, you have in your technology the medium you call film. You have in your technology the medium you call electromagnetic tape. If you will take a moment to examine these technological medium, you will understand that each of them is a recording medium that allows for an expression to be perceived, to be transmitted, to be communicated. But the images on the film, the voice on the tape, it's not the original voice, not the original image, but they are recording medium that allow for transmission of this information, storage of this information. Thus then, you know instinctively and innately that while the images of the people on the film are not the real people, you know that they are in a sense above, beyond, outside the film, yet the film presents what you would call a lifelike representation and allows for a communicative medium to transmit information, things that these people may have done, things that these people may have said. Then so too is the physical body and the brain simply like unto such a medium, a recording, storage, and transmission medium to allow for the expression of consciousness in physical terms. The physical brain is not, in a sense, creating the consciousness. However, it is creating a type of expression of consciousness. For anything that manifests itself into physicality must have a corresponding counterpart process or function that represents what is going on. This is what is causing to some degree the confusion among your scientists, in that they see the electrochemical activity of the brain. They see the electromagnetic activity of the brain, and they say, could these electrochemical and electromagnetic effects be responsible for the idea of the creation of consciousness? Again, the answer is no. But these electrochemical and electromagnetic effects in the brain are responsible for creating the environment, the atmosphere, the electromagnetic field, the electrobiochemical field through which consciousness can express itself, and without which consciousness will not be capable of expressing itself in the physical medium. At least not to the same degree that you understand it now, and not with the same degree of precision and or clarity. So while the brain is creating, in a sense, a type of echo, a type of resonance echo of what the consciousness intends, and it is in that sense creating a level of consciousness presentation. It is not creating the original consciousness. The brain, in that sense, is a recording, storage, and transmission medium, like your film, like your tape, that you know that what is on the film, what is on the tape, what is coming through the brain originates far beyond, far above what is actually physically there. This is the nature of how physical reality functions, only really as a transmission device, as an in-between device, recording, storage, and transmission medium for consciousness that chooses to express itself in this particular modality. Now, this extends out even beyond your physicalized form, your body, as you say, with what you call your electromagnetic field. In a sense, electromagnetic or electromagnetheric, whichever you wish to use. There are some subtle differences in definition, but for the purposes of this conversation, they will be the same. For this illustration, they will be the same. This field around your body that extends far from your body, what some of you call the aura, but the aura is really a combination of many different resonant fields, but the electromagnetheric one in particular, that is one of the first levels that consciousness expresses itself in, or as, when it decides to become physically materialized. Consciousness, when it decides to experience itself and express itself as a physical being, will first create the idea of an electromagnetic field, and this is what you call spirit, or the etheric body, or the astral body in a sense, although that is a little bit above, but etheric or electromagnetic is the consciousness expressing itself for the first time in physical materiality. It is like unto the idea of steam turning into liquid water, slowing down its vibrational rate, and so then moving from liquid water, or electromagnetic energy, or spirit, into physicality, or, by analogy, ice. It solidifies into the idea of physical density, materiality. But the first level, the electromagnetic level, electromagnetheric level, is spirit, is your consciousness expressing itself as spirit. And because it is the larger level, because it is the first level before physical densification, it is bigger than your body, because your body is in your spirit. Your spirit is not in your body. That's why your physical aura, your electromagnetic field, is bigger than your body, because that is a bigger idea of you, in the same way that water, in a sense, shall we say, is more free-flowing, and steam can extend much farther than ice. The idea is that the spirit, the electromagnetic field, contains the body, in that once you create the electromagnetic field, that parameter remains, that diameter remains, but then in the center, the body crystallizes, densifies out of that field. But when the body densifies, it still has the field around it of more refined, less dense energy. That is your spirit self. So your spirit, in a sense, extends beyond your physical body. And it is through this electromagnetic field that you pick up on all the subtle vibrations of communication going on between all of you telepathically. There are refined levels. The immediate level, the most dense level of the spirit form before physicality, does really only extend perhaps a few feet away from your body, or a few yards, depending upon your level of energy. But there is a refined level, a very refined level of that electromagnetheric body, that electromagnetheric field or bubble, that is your consciousness, that actually covers or surrounds your entire planet and encompasses everyone. So all of your fields are interlocked. This is what allows there to be telepathic communication within the electromagnetheric field. This is how you use the mechanism to create your mass agreed upon reality so that you can experience the same kind of game, generally speaking, with everyone else. Yes, of course, there is a level above and beyond that in your consciousness where you are all one, where you're communicating instantaneously with each other. But again, as we have already said, everything that is done on a higher level also has its physiological counterpart to some degree. And thus the electromagnetheric field level that we are talking about now, that is interpenetrating every other person's electromagnetheric field, is that level that reflects and exemplifies and represents, in physical terms, the instantaneous connection that all of you have on higher levels beyond the physical. It is like bubbles and bubbles and bubbles and bubbles and bubbles. All interlocked, all interlinked, all containing one the other. All interpenetrating, all resonating, all vibrating together, even while you are vibrating at your own unique frequency. you also have a mass consensus frequency that allows you to stay in touch. Of course, some of you don't. Those are the people, as we have said in the past, that you generally call insane. It is not that they are not perceiving a reality just as real as yours, but they may not be locking into, for one reason or another, the mass consensus reality for some reason right now. It doesn't mean that they are experiencing something any less real than what you are experiencing. They're just not going along with the crowd. So then, remember, physical reality, in a sense, is a medium, recording, storage, transmission medium, and of course always a mirror, a reflective mirror for what's going on within you, for what it is you are transmitting, what it is you are attempting to communicate both to yourself and to others. Can always be used as the perfectly reflective mirror to determine what kind of a reality you are creating based on what kind of definitions and belief systems you hold to be true that give rise to the vibratory frequency that allows you to experience the reality that you do. We thank you for allowing us to share this notion, this perspective, this day of your time with you, this brief idea of the expression of consciousness. And in return for the gift that you are giving our civilization, I ask you now, in what way may I and my world be of service to you? You, and then you. Number two, do you know who you are? All right. Number one, good day.
Good day, Bashar.
And good day.
I wanted to find out if you can scan me and tell me if I have an Egyptian past life history, and
most of you do.
Specifically on mine, is there anything you can tell me about it? Anything interesting?
Why?
Why
is this of interest to you at this time? Why are you focused on this idea at this time?
A psychic had told me about it in Sedona, and it just seemed interesting to me because we had just done a remote viewing session on the Sphinx that I wanted to ask you some things about.
Then let us proceed with the idea of the Sphinx, and we will then perhaps put to use any connections you are making to any so-called past life in Egyptian times. For any such connection is being made from the present, since all lives are simultaneous, and it is for the purpose of putting to use or application that then these connections are being made. So let us get right to the point of the application of the reason you are making a connection to that time period rather than dwelling in the past.
Okay. Is the Sphinx fifth density?
There is a fifth density component to it, but obviously it is a third density structure as well.
Okay, but was it actually created? Has it actually been created by our time, or is it actually not yet created in our time? This was some interesting things that we got because it was created out of the laws of linear time. Is that incorrect?
In some sense, there is a component of its construction wherein this is true. However, like we have already said in our opening monologue, everything that is above, in a sense, has a counterpart below. And specifically in this way, you will find that the creation of the so-called Sphinx and certain of the ancient pyramids, while they do have energy counterparts on higher dimensional realms, obviously also were intended to have physiological counterparts on your Earth so that a link and a bridge could be formed, so that they could act as conduits from your world to higher dimensional resonances and frequencies. Were it not so that the physicality were not there, were it not so that the physical representation were not also created, then you would not necessarily find it as easy to make the link to the higher dimensions through the structure that exists on your planet. So while, yes, many higher energies were invoked in its creation, obviously the idea of third density reality was also involved, or you wouldn't be seeing a structure.
But was it actually built at a certain time in our past?
Yes.
Okay.
Approximately what you would call your 10,400 BC, as you say.
Okay. And is there a gateway? We got that there was a gateway in there that uses nonlinear vibration and a very specific vibration to a transformational door or gateway.
Yes.
Through there.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could illuminate any other information on how to use it. This was specifically on the knowledge.
How to use it is tantamount to learning to be yourself. For when you are your full self, then your frequency is at the highest resonant level it can possibly be. And the Sphinx and many other such structures that were created in your ancient times are keyed to those high frequency resonant levels. so that when they recognize a similar level of frequency being reflected back to them, they open automatically. They are keyed to high levels of resonance.
Can you say in what way they would open in terms
There
of
are a variety of ways in which they will open. There are actual physical doorways that will open when they recognize the correct frequency, that lead to underground chambers that many of you have now begun to realize exist, but which you have not yet gone into physically. But there are also dimensional gateways. And the idea, again, is that simply they are keyed to certain frequencies, and when they are in proximity to those frequencies, or perhaps more precisely, when someone of that frequency is in proximity to that gate, it will open up. Now, the non-physical ones may allow such people who are triggering such gates to suddenly be capable of seeing, in a sense, into other dimensions. They may see things that other people, even a few yards away, will not see, because the doorway will be oriented to their vision and their frequency, and they may literally see many things that exist in other dimensional realms. That's one way in which those interdimensional gates can open. The physical gates can simply also open in a similar fashion, though it would be more likely that if the physical gate opens, people around the general vicinity would most likely be capable of seeing that. You follow?
Yes. Now that brings to question, would you actually need to be, in us being third-dimensional beings, in the physical presence of the Sphinx in Egypt?
For now, most of you, yes, would have to be.
And what about access to the compartment where the orb and the gateways actually are, which the public
in
is
terms
not allowed
of what
access
you would
to?
call astral access, all of you have the ability to do that. But the idea, again, is that it's up to you to determine whether you have the ability, in general, to allow yourself to be conscious of that experience, of that access, when you do it astrally. Many of you may do it astrally and may not allow yourselves to remember that you have done so. But all of you have the potential now, when you so-called leave your body, as you say, out of body. You all have the ability, and many of you actually have had the experience of visiting those gates and going into them, going into the chambers, seeing what is there. But perhaps because of a variety of reasons, one of which may be that many of you still buy into the consensus reality for one reason or another, neither good or bad about this, many of you will choose to forget that you have been there, but will retain the urge, the drive to find out what is there. So sometimes that urge and that drive, that curiosity to find out what is there, actually comes from having been there, but not remembering. This way, you give yourself the opportunity to bring it down to earth, so to speak, by knowing that there is something there important to find, but then creating a series of circumstances physically that will actually bring about the discovery in physical terms, and so in that sense reveal it to the physical world, which would then complete the circuit from higher to lower. You follow this?
Yes. Now, is there actually a mechanical orb?
Yes.
Inside?
Yes.
And is that triangular in shape?
No.
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 Okay. And can you give us any more on what the purpose of the orb is? And what we had gotten from the session was that there was actually a consciousness to it.
There is a consciousness to everything. Everything is consciousness.
And that it was fully awake but lacking motivation, that there was some kind
In
of...
some senses, that could be a euphemistic way of saying that it recognizes it is about to be activated, but also recognizes that the critical mass on your planet has not been reached for it to, in a sense, be bothered with full activation yet. Yes?
Okay. He also got that visuals were dependent upon specific intersecting frequencies vibrating at unusual speed or level, sight unseen.
Yes, but this is simply a technical way of saying that when the right frequencies are present, they will automatically know what to do and will automatically cause things to happen. You don't have to think about it in technical terms. Let's see, do I have the right frequency here and the right frequency there? It can be done that way, but from our point of view, in a sense, that is the more difficult and backwards way. That is the thing to, in a sense, render every single component, every single detail in the appropriate place first, instead of simply letting the event orchestrate itself automatically by simply being the correct general frequency and knowing that all the pieces will automatically fall into place when they recognize that the general theme has been played, so to speak.
Okay.
Sufficient. Thank you. Number 2.
Thank you, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Good day. I'd like to ask a couple of questions. One of them,
Yes.
Relative to the safety of ingestion in quantities of 20 micrograms and less of monatomic rhodium
Yes.
when added to or herbal substances,
Yes.
is it safe for use in that quantity?
Yes.
And does it substantially enhance the effectiveness of such substances?
To mix them with the herbs, you mean?
Yes.
It depends on the herbs. Many of them will have no effect at all. Some of the herbs will cancel out some of the effects of the monatomic rhodium. Some will enhance it. It will depend. Does this help you?
That does help.
And so?
Does the Schumann field
Yes.
relate to the safety of the use of a monatomic rhodium?
No.
Okay. All right, another subject entirely, the Bose-Einstein condensate.
Yes.
Herbert Freulich has indicated that against a lot of opposition, that the condensate is present in all living things.
In some fashion, yes.
Yes. And
Though it may not always be detectable by your instrumentation.
yes.
For a variety of reasons. Not always just because your instruments are not, quote-unquote, sensitive enough, but sometimes, depending upon exactly how the condensate is locked into any particular organism, it may not necessarily appear as itself because it is acting as a catalyst to do other work. And so it may not, in a sense, give off the frequency that would be recognized as itself because it has been transformed to do other things.
Now, can we say that all thought requires the condensate?
Well, in a sense, yes. If you want to put it in the broadest possible terms, to some degree, yes, but not always, no. There are highly charged environments that can act as a substitute carrier for the idea of the condensate with regard to the transmission of thought. But it will require very high frequency fields if the condensate is not present. But in general, the condensate is present wherever there is the concept of thought in some fashion, yes, though again it may not always be recognizable and or detectable.
And can we say that essentially the central nervous system requires a healthy condensate?
Yes, you can say it.
All right. I better recast that.
All right, if you wish.
Do electromagnetic frequencies disrupt the condensate?
It can. Generally within the range of the electromagnetic frequencies that your body is capable of producing, no. The thing that would be more disruptive would actually be the lack of the proper electromagnetic frequencies due to high toxicity within the system and heavy mineralogical toxification. You follow?
Yes, I do.
Just the opposite then. Not so much the high frequencies, but the absence thereof would to some degree be detrimental to the ability of the condensate to function as it needs to.
Yes.
Does this help you?
It does help.
All right.
Could I drop back a second to the...
You want to go back in time?
Well, I want to go back to the subject of the monatomic substance.
Specifically rhodium or something else?
Well, yes, specifically to rhodium.
Oh, all right.
Do we have the instrumentation available now to determine what herbs would be enhanced?
Yes.
All right.
For the most part.
Yes.
However, I have a question for you.
Yes.
In general, the idea of the ingestion of the foodstuffs on your planet that contain high concentrations of monatomic rhodium, if they are organically grown and of high quality, would generally not require herbal enhancement of any type. Therefore, why is it that you are so interested in the idea of herbal enhancement instead of the more simplified direct ingestion of foodstuffs that simply contain high amounts of monatomic rhodium and require, in a sense, no herbal enhancement? Other than what herbal enhancement might be derived from the herb's effect on detoxifying the body that would then allow the monatomic rhodium to function more correctly. That would be perhaps the more beneficial herbal enhancement, rather than assuming that the herbal enhancement is directly of the monatomic rhodium. It would be more appropriate that it enhances the body's ability to allow the monatomic rhodium to do its job.
So it would probably be faulty to imagine that the ingestion of rhodium itself can function in a healing
Rhodium
way.
or monatomic rhodium?
Monatomic rhodium.
It can function to some degree in a healing capacity, but again, it is to some degree limited by the state of the body when the ingestion takes place. A body that is severely depleted, a body that in that sense is severely toxic, may not allow the monatomic rhodium or iridium or any of the other monatomics to really go much farther than the first area that requires its services, and even then the monatomic substance may not be sufficient to allow for full repair of that area if it is severely, severely damaged. You follow?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You and then you, number two. Do you know who you are? All right, number one.
Good day, Bashar.
And good day.
You spoke earlier about the condensation of an electromagnetic field to create an etheric body.
Well, in a sense, the idea of the etheric body is a variant, is a frequency variant of the electromagnetic field, yes.
But it's a process, a consciousness creates
Yes.
the etheric body out of the electromagnetic.
Well, so to speak, yes. It creates it by intention. It doesn't necessarily have to fashion the body, but the desire and the intention to exist in a certain plane of existence, in a sense, brings about the vehicle that you would call the etheric body. Now, the etheric body doesn't have to look like your physical body at all. But many times it will, simply because it's taking its resonant cue from the physical form that you are creating, because most of you are focused in the physical reality, and so reflecting back to the etheric body that was originally formed before the physical one, reflecting back to the etheric body the characteristics that it ought to have. But that doesn't mean that the original etheric body actually looked anything like your physical human body. But it will, in retrospect, take on some of those characteristics once you get used to being a physical body long enough.
The etheric body is created before the physical body?
Yes. Because it is, again, the same way that you have steam condensing down into water, condensing down into ice. The more dense, the later, in a sense, linearly speaking, the creation. The less dense, the more primary, the more fundamental that creation is. Because you, fundamentally, occupying no space and time at all, pure consciousness, pure awareness, in a sense, is made of no substance whatsoever. So any substantial representation is, by definition, to some degree, several stages removed and several stages more dense, more solidified than your primal, quote-unquote, original state of pure beingness. Does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Are you sure? There was hesitation in your response.
It's because I'm thinking about the concept that I can see how the physical body is sort of condensed out of the higher frequency.
Yes. So if you wish to think of the idea of the etheric body like unto what your people call a ghost, then the idea would be that that's like the template. It's like an energy template. And then when you crystallize it or solidify it or slow the vibration down even further, it becomes more solidified and takes on the characteristics that are necessary for the continuation of the body in human form. It's like putting on what you would call a deep sea diving suit to go deeper, deeper, deeper down. But when you come back up, you shed the suit. In the same way, in a sense, that you shed your physical body when you go back into spirit. Make sense?
Yes, but you can. Well,
make sense?
Yes, but you can. Well, let me ask you this.
Oh, all right, I'll let you.
at any point, a person can separate their etheric, mental, or astral bodies from their physical.
Well, yes, although you're not actually separating. Before we go on, let me give you a very, very, very brief reminder of what's actually happening. Remember, your physical body is actually inside your etheric one, not the other way around. Even though you create the apparent illusion in physical linear space-time terminology that you are going out of your body, that you are separating your astral or etheric body from your physical body, detaching and leaving, that is not actually mechanically what is really happening. That's your perception of it because of how you've been taught to think or perceive linear space-time. More precisely, what is happening is you are expanding your consciousness back out into the larger etheric body, but still representing the focal point of your consciousness as if it were still encapsulated in the representation of your physical bodily form. But then you just call it the etheric body. But what's happening is your consciousness is actually expanding back out from, but still containing the physical body concept. Not really separating from it, just getting bigger so that you actually know that your physical body is now actually at the center of you, deep inside you. You're not actually separating from it, you just get bigger than it. You expand your focus beyond the idea of your physical domain. Does that make more sense to you?
But at the same time, you can feel that physical body and an etheric body as two separate bodies.
Yes, you will, again, because of the way you have been taught to perceive linear space-time and its relationship to higher dimensions. But when you get more used to the idea of existing in etheric dimensions or astral dimensions or more refined non-physical dimensions, you will lose that sensation completely. You will know that your physical form is actually inside you. You follow?
We do. Can I ask you something on a totally different subject?
Yes.
According to Sitchin, 6 million years ago, the
Yes.
Guru's satellite smashed into Maldek or Tiamat
Yes.
and created the asteroid belt,
Yes.
and some of the remnants also formed the Earth. Is that
Well, in
correct?
some senses, yes. Though there is a little bit more complexity to it than that, but not really the Earth in the sense as you understand it now. Your structure, the Earth, does have antiquity, billions of years. It was not that the Earth was formed 6 million years ago, but it was in many ways severely altered by that particular cataclysm, yes. But then, as the resonance changed, as the alterations occurred, as damage was done, as things then healed, it became, in a sense, a very different Earth.
But it was existing as a separate planet. The Earth was not part of Tiamat or Maldek.
No.
It was in a separate orbit.
Yes.
And it got affected by the explosion,
Yes.
just like Mars did.
Yes. And what you call your 2 Martian moons are also 2 of the remnants of that collision, just as the chunks of material in what you call your asteroid belt are.
So Sitchin is wrong because he...
Not wrong, simply not necessarily definitive enough.
Okay. And where does the moon fit into this?
Your physical Earth's moon is a body that in a sense is natural, but not from your neighborhood. It was in that sense at a time of what you would call your last polar shift, shortly thereafter, brought into your neighborhood, engineered, hollowed out in certain places, stabilized, and put into orbit to allow there to be regularity from that point forward so as to dissuade, shall we say, the irregular cycles that had been set up for a long time, to dissuade them from occurring again or from occurring quite so drastically as before. So it's like a balancing device, a regulation device that was brought in to aid and assist the planet to stabilize after its last polar shift. You follow?
I do.
You will find that many of your scientists have a comprehensive catalog of anomalies that are connected to your moon that will, with very, very little examination, reveal it to be, in a sense, an engineered natural body. You follow?
I do. When Maldek exploded, was there a population on the Earth at that time?
Yes, but not the one you consider yourselves to be.
What did they look like?
They were in what you would term a humanoid but the idea is that they were not human. We will not go into that for now. That will be for another time.
Did they have a relationship with the Martians at that time?
Yes.
Can you tell us anything about that relationship?
Yes.
Will you tell us anything?
There was exchange of types, of sorts, and you will find that the creation of what you would call the artifacts on the Martian surface were created at about that time, as a recognition that in the future it would be required that those artifacts would trigger ancient memories. For incarnationally, many of you are ancient Martians, when that planet was capable of supporting life, before what you call the cataclysm. And so, the population of the Earth at that time, which was not indigenous, understand, they did not evolve on your planet, but the population of the Earth at that time was in contact with the Martians at that time, before the cataclysm, and it was recognized that certain things were about to happen. And just as the pyramids and the Sphinx on your planet were also built to encapsulate, among other things, but to encapsulate the idea of events that are possible, that could come about, to act as a stabilization factor, to act as a repository of knowledge so that knowledge would not be lost, so too are some of the artifacts on your moon and on the Martian surface that are there to trigger memory so that you can regain the ancient knowledge, the ancient storehouse, in a sense, library of information, and so perhaps this time go beyond the cycles of destruction and create a new reality in a new cycle of growth. This is a long-term, long-range plan, in a sense, and many of you were all involved in the creation of this plan from many different points of view and within many different incarnations and many different civilizations across what you call your span of history. Do you follow any of this?
I do.
End of story for now.
One last question.
Yes.
As a shorthand for the future, when we refer to the race that was on the Earth that was affected by the explosion of Maldek, is there a shorthand name we can give them to refer to them, like, say, reptilians or something?
No, they were not reptilians.
Okay.
Nice try.
All right.
Thank you. Number 2. One moment before you proceed. By that time, you will find that the idea of the reptilian hybridization program, with a few exceptions, was no longer located on the Earth at all. You understand? The genetic material that was taken from what you call your dinosaurs and turned into hybrid species that many of you are now beginning to encounter again were taken off the planet long before that time. Number 2. Proceed.
Yes,
Good day.
Good day. Your comments have been very timely.
Oh, all right. Thank you for your timeliness as well in hearing them.
Yes, I need some clarification on an event that just recently happened to me.
All right. Define.
I was with my sister-in-law,
Yes.
and I was looking at her, and I saw this energy or aura around her.
Yes.
And it was white with darkness around it.
Yes.
And I found it quite disturbing, but I'm not sure if I found it disturbing just because I had never seen anything like that before, or if it was the white and the dark that was making me uncomfortable.
All
and
right.
I was wondering if you could have any words on that.
All right. Series of questions. Are you aware of your sister-in-law's general state of physical health?
Sort of, but I'm not really sure.
All right. Then give us sort of what you know.
I believe she's healthy.
All right. Are you sure? Can you ask?
Yes, I could ask her.
All right. Do that. And that perhaps will lay aside some of your fears. The next thing then you might consider is that what you perceived was the polarity that exists within most individuals, the light and the dark. You follow?
Yes.
And as a reflection, therefore, of the polarity that you are integrating within yourself, as it was reflected back to you, to enlighten you as to your ability to expand your senses to be able to perceive beyond your typical physical reality. Make sense to you?
Yes. I had another question.
Oh, all right.
The question is simply do children choose their parents
Yes, they do.
prior to the physical
Yes,
act of
they do.
conception?
Yes, they do.
And what is the difference between etheric bodies and auras? Or are they one and the same? Or
The aura is a combination of a number of different frequencies that contain the etheric as well as other body forms or other vibratory resonances associated with your consciousness. The etheric body is simply, in a sense, a specific wavelength, a specific frequency expression of consciousness, in the same way that you would say that the electromagnetic spectrum, the visible electromagnetic spectrum, what you call the rainbow, you understand?
Yes.
Has many different colors. So when you say spectrum, that's like saying aura. But when you say green, that's like saying one specific frequency. Just like when you say etheric body, that's like saying one specific frequency within the general overall auric field. Make sense?
Yes. Back to the question of the children quickly.
Yes.
Is there a time frame in which this occurs? When the child
It depends on the
chooses their
individual.
parent?
It depends on the individual. Now, we are not saying that there are not some instances wherein it may not be an automatically conscious choice, because sometimes the things that an individual will do will determine the frequency rate at which they vibrate, will determine then what it is or who it is they are automatically attracted to. And so it may not necessarily be what you would call an intentional choice in all cases, but it is a choice based on the choice of what frequency an individual may be, physical or non-physical. However, in this day and age now, more so than ever, because more and more and more of you are exploring the idea of consciousness and are becoming more aware that you have choice and do create your reality, then more of the children, especially now, being born these days on your planet, are consciously intending and choosing their parents very specifically. Not that this didn't happen before, but there's more of it now. You follow?
Yes.
Does this help you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. You. Number 2, do you know who you are? All right, number 3. All right, number 1, good day.
Good day again, Bashar. Thank you.
Yes.
Can you tell us who created the Sphinx? What the intelligence behind it? The intelligence of the secret cavern.
What you would understand for now, and I am not saying that others were not involved, but the majority of the group that created those structures, the Sphinx and the most ancient of pyramids still standing on your planet, you would recognize in general as Atlanteans.
Okay.
End of conversation. End of conversation.
Thank you.
Number.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I've been exploring some more.
Yes, all right.
And I had a great experience Tuesday.
Yes, do tell.
Yes. And what I tapped into is with the home energy again.
Yes.
And I was at the lake with my Indian friends and everything.
All right.
When I first went there, the body of the lake has this stream of water shooting up. And
Shooting up.
Yeah, from the lake. Really nice.
You mean like a fountain?
Like a fountain, yeah.
Oh, all right.
And there are always rainbows there.
Rainbows.
Yes.
All right.
Rainbows.
Nice.
And this particular time it touched into when I talked to you quite a while ago about my rainbow bridge.
Yes.
When I had the one Earth that was burning,
Yes.
and I went across, 9 of us went across the rainbow bridge
Yes,
to
yes.
the new world.
Yes.
And
so?
And so
You have
I
found a place full of bridges, full of potentiality,
Yes.
full of possibility, full of parallel reality choices.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And so?
And that was the morning star.
Yes.
That's what I had drawn like 23, 24 years ago.
All right.
And the morning star, I'm investigating this a little bit more. There's some Indian the Chumash Indians, something ties into that morning star, that dawn, the bringing of the new day that I'm still looking into. That's the name of this, because I'd asked for the name of it, but Morning Star is the name of the retreat, the name of the home is what I'm getting.
Morning Star.
Morning Star.
All right.
Yes.
It's a beautiful name.
Isn't it, though? And it ties in with the children and the white flowers, that vibration of the innocence of the child.
And the vibration symbolically also associated with what you call your planet of Venus, the morning star, as it is called, being the vibration you call love. Yes.
Oh, yes. How beautiful. Yes. Very, very good. So all that came about.
All right. All of that synchronistically ties together for you?
Yes.
All right.
Then,
thank you.
I'm remembering, you remember we talked last week about the energy of my future self.
Yes.
As a hybrid. And
of a type.
Of a type.
Yes.
Now, what I've typed into so far is
So far,
I remembered, the red planet on my back came up on Father's Day.
All right.
And then I also spoke with my father in this lifetime.
Right.
We were talking, and at that time he told me, he said, our relationship from this day forward has changed. We will always have that daughter-father relationship, but he said it now has taken on new vistas, new avenues.
All right.
And I sort of forgot about it, and I hadn't explored that. And then at the same time the other day, I remembered what you told me last week about how I know, but I don't know that I know.
Yes.
And I feel that is, I know it's my father's energy.
Yes.
And when I was doing some writing, this was before this time, I said his name was Seaton. Is it Seaton? So I'm exploring that further.
Oh, all right. By all means, continue to do so.
Yeah, but so far that's what I've gotten. And he gave me a name of a planet.
Such as?
It starts with a G. It was.
Starts with a G.
Yeah, and it was. I've never heard of it before. Sort of like, I don't want to say Gottlieb or Gott. I can't remember the spelling of it, but it's sort of like Gottlieb or God.
Were you given any understanding as to the location of this particular planet? In terms of its parent star?
There was an association with Sirius.
All right. We will leave it at that for now.
Oh, you're just going to leave
Neither confirming nor unconfirming at this time.
Okay.
You are in mid-exploration.
Yes.
This is obviously going to be leading us into further conversations.
Right.
And we will discuss this at a more appropriate time.
Right, yeah. So that's what I got so far.
Oh, all right.
The other thing, I've been, went out and got some information on the Chumash Indians that I'm exploring.
Yes.
And I'm very interested in the medicine wheel.
Yes.
And I was talking to Daryl.
Yes.
And his partner, knows something about the medicine wheel.
Yes.
And I had asked if there was any literature, because I have not been able to find anything. And he said that his partner Tracy had said that she only knows of one book, and then it really only mentions it. And can you tell me a little bit about, the medicine wheel? We don't.
It is more appropriate, as you have already discussed, that you ask the individual in question.
Tracy?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because
we have, from time to time, in many of the conversations, discussed many attributes and aspects that are also synchronous or synonymous with concepts in what you call the medicine wheel concept. But the idea is that for the concept expressed in the cultural context that you're asking for, it would be wiser to ask someone of that culture.
Of an American Native Indian.
Of Indian culture, yes.
Indian culture, yeah. Well, Little Bear, who I was Little Bear that I tapped into my lifetime from the Chumash Indians.
Yes.
You said had full understanding or complete
yes.
understanding.
But in that there is an individual on your planet physiologically who can answer your questions directly.
Yeah.
Then you will not necessarily have to sit around wondering whether you have accurate information or not from your guides.
Good.
You follow?
Yes.
Take the path of least resistance. Be pragmatic and practical. Sometimes that's the most spiritual thing you can do.
Yeah, I am going to
all right.
talk with her. I just wanted to know, too, if there were some books I could read, but
No.
evidently there isn't.
There are books, but they are in the head.
Yeah.
They are not books of what you call paper.
Yes, we're going to have her speak.
Then you will hear the book.
Yes, so that's very good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3.
I came here not to stay silent.
Good day, good day.
Good day, Bashar. And I have one question.
Yes, one question.
Yeah, I need your advice.
Advice.
Is there any effective way to energize myself, energize my physical body? I feel I lost my energy. I eat a lot. I sleep a lot. But still I can't recover my
All right.
original energy.
Now, from time to time, it is not what you call a bad thing to find that you may simply be in low ebb, low energy time, maybe needing to recharge, recover, take it easy, relax, not be in a hurry, not be anxious. Sometimes you will deprive yourself of energy to force yourself to relax. That's one thing you may need to think about a little bit. The other thing, as we have already said, is that when an individual truly follows at every given moment their highest joy, highest excitement, they will find themselves generally always being as energized as they need to be. When they start doing things that are not representative of their true self, that will make it seem as if your energy is being taken away. So that is always a good, shall we say, measuring device, sometimes to determine whether or not you are really following your highest energy. On another level, it is also an always, shall we say, a wise thing to double check to make sure physiologically you are not, in a sense, depleted, deprived, nutrients, minerals, so on and so forth, in your world, in your reality, on Earth, as you call it. Your planet, your atmosphere, your soil, it's highly toxic. Many times, some of the tiredness and lack of energy that many of you feel may simply be because you are deprived of the basic things of life. Like, say, for example, oxygen. Say, for example, water. You will be amazed at how far and how much energy you will have by simply having pure oxygen, pure water, those kinds of things. So make sure that your body is not toxic. Make sure that you are putting into it things that are not toxic. Detoxify yourself wherever possible. Strengthen yourself physically in that sense. That may be some of the reason why you also experience a depletion of energy. All these things are things to consider and explore. But primary among them is the idea of always making sure, to the best of your ability, that you really are acting on those things that are most true for you, most representative of your highest joy, and not acting on those things that really are not your true self. For that will tire you out more than almost anything, especially in this day and age on your planet when there is so much acceleration. The slightest thing that you do that is not aligned with your truth can have the same tiring effect as sometimes months and months and months of fighting against yourself may have had years ago. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. But I believe I'm doing excitement, my own excitement.
Then check the other things I told you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Does that help you? You! Female, you! Good day.
Good day, Bashar. I have one main important question I needed to ask you.
Yes.
It has to do with hydrazine sulfate.
Yes.
And I read an article claiming that hydrazine sulfate could
Cure this, cure that.
Yeah.
In some cases, yes. But there are many other ideas that are also very effective. Depends upon the circumstances, depends upon the individual, depends upon the moment. Some things will work better for others. You follow?
So most of it depends on the individual and just...
And the moment and the reason and the timing and what it is you may or may not have manifested for yourself and why it is you may or may not be attracted to a certain thing and what the specific event that exists in your life has been created to bring you into awareness of. But in general, yes, some of these things, when handled correctly, can be very effective in helping the body come back to a relatively neutral state. But there are a variety of things in a variety of circumstances that are capable of doing this. You follow?
Yeah.
Now, do remember before you continue, that many of the things that many of you are now finding that may to some degree be effective against certain states of imbalance and what you call dis-ease are only necessary because you have not given yourself an opportunity to have clean air, clean water, low levels of toxicity, and so forth. If you simply had, to begin with, the ability to acquire pure oxygen, to oxygenate all your cells, hydration of your body, make sure there's enough water so that there can be the flushing of toxins from your system, motion, what you call the idea of activity physically, make sure that you are eating things that are not toxifying your body again, that you are eliminating toxins from the system, that you are relaxing, that in that sense you are doing the things that you love to do and staying in that centered place of peace and vitality and creativity. If most of you would do these things, you would find very little reason to have to find things that would be, in a sense, emergency measures to take care of diseases you have now allowed yourself to succumb to. Do you follow that line of logic, first of all?
Yes.
But in so doing, in having created sometimes the idea of imbalances and diseases, then again, at least give yourself the opportunity to understand that whatever would be representative of the most natural and the least negatively impactful remedies would be the ones that you would allow yourself to explore first. Do you follow?
Yes.
So, we are not saying that your concept of hydrazine sulfate cannot work, and in many cases it will actually be very effective. And in some senses, compared to some of the other things that many of your scientists do, it is, shall we say, relatively low impact, relatively natural. But so are many other things. If, in that sense, you will do your explorations and find in what you call your natural herbal, your natural food, your natural homeopathic, your idea of low-impact medicine, that which, again, utilizes the most natural elements without toxic side effects, beginning there, do your exploration beginning that way, you will usually find something that will work very well for you. But at the heart of any disease, there is literally dis-ease. So, concurrently with your physiological explorations of things that may assist your body in rebalancing would be an exploration of emotionality and belief systems. For without the exploration and rebalancing of the emotional systems that brought about the susceptibility to disease, then any physiological rebalancing will only be temporary. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it sure does.
Now, bottom line, as you say on your planet, always, however, even in light of everything I have just told you, always trust your instincts and follow, first and foremost, the path of least resistance with regard to the strongest belief within you. In other words, to put it in practical and pragmatic terms, sometimes, you have to pay attention to when you believe it's the right time, but sometimes someone having a surgical procedure will actually be more representative of not fighting against your beliefs, not trying to be more spiritual. When you know that simply having the surgical procedure is actually the path of least resistance, the simplest thing to do, the easiest thing that falls in line with your strongest beliefs, and you don't have to force yourself to wrestle your beliefs into another modality in order to believe that something else will be more effective, sometimes that will be the thing to do. Do you understand the analogy I am making and the context in which I am saying this?
Yes.
So don't throw everything away. Don't throw anything away. But examine, explore with equal validity anything that comes to your attention and make an assessment as to whether what it is you are being offered as an opportunity of exploration is or is not truly in alignment with your strongest beliefs and is or is not the path of least resistance, regardless of whether someone else thinks it's the more or less spiritual thing to do. Being true to your strongest self is the most spiritual thing to do. Not trying to force yourself to do something you think you're supposed to do that's supposed to represent more spiritual behavior. Does that make sense to you?
Sure.
Yes. Yes. More people on your planet now, in general, are finding that spiritual behavior does generally more often now begin to represent using things of lower impact and more natural substance and using the mind and using energy. Natural substance and using the mind and using energy. These things are becoming more and more and more possible for your people every day. But when someone forces themselves to think that that's the way they have to be, they are actually contradicting the whole concept of what it means to be true to yourself and to be a spiritual person. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Does this help you?
Sure. Thank you, Bashar.
Our unconditional love to you. You, and then you. Number 1. Number 2, do you know who you are? Number 3, do you know who you are? All right, thank you. Number 1, good day. Oh, all right. We will wait for Michael.
I have had some rather fascinating and diverse things put on my plate lately.
All
and
right.
I'm thrilled to say that I find them intriguing rather than fearful.
I am thrilled that you are thrilled.
And with that said, I just want you to feel really free to fill me in on whatever.
You know we always feel free to do that.
All right, well, I had something.
If you are under the impression, any of you, at any time, that I hold back because of being worried about your sensitivity, by all means erase that thought from your minds right now.
Okay.
The only reason we ever hold back saying something is because it is, in the larger scheme of things, from a higher perspective, simply inappropriate.
Okay.
But pushing your buttons is what gives us great fun.
Well,
Because,
great.
after all, it's what all of you have already asked us to do, or you wouldn't be in this conversation with us, believe me.
Absolutely. I know this.
I know you know.
Well,
So proceed.
so I've got some really fun things to talk about.
Oh, all right, go right ahead.
The other night, last Saturday night, I had a singing engagement in Palisades.
Yes.
And I could have sworn, this is straight out of a comic book,
Comic
that
book.
there were
All right,
two-
understood.
that there were 2 men in black at my gig.
All right.
Now, they were either
Was it a formal
lovers
affair?
Or it was semi-formal.
Semi-formal.
It was couples. It was a wedding.
Yes.
And these 2 guys showed up,
Yes.
dressed alike,
Yes.
sunglasses after the sun went down.
All right.
And a
They
friend
were
of
having
mine-
some fun with you.
They were having some fun with me.
Yes, they were people from your world, but they were having some fun.
Well, what,
But they were there synchronistically to trigger something within you that you wanted to have triggered at that time.
Well-
There's nothing ultimately mysterious about the actual individuals in this case as we scan your energy, but the mystery is in that you all together co-created that particular reflection so that you could examine what you're examining right now.
Well, I think it's awesome. I mean, I couldn't believe that I had no fear. I thought this was just so exciting. I
All
I
right.
signed up for this stuff.
Yeah, it's all right, very
And
good.
I mean, mainly because I guess I'm a little fearless because I feel like I can't imagine many people vibrating as quickly as I'm vibrating right now. I feel so focused and
All right, thank
so
you.
good about things. So,
Imagine now that there are hundreds of millions, billions of individuals vibrating at the same rate, and that would be what you would call fourth density Earth. And a few other planets that I know of.
okay. I want to ask you,
Yes.
there's a writer that I'm writing my life experience book with
Yes.
in Canada.
Yes.
And for some reason, we seem to be so incredibly in sync. And
And the first recognition of why that would be so would be...
because I'm sure we have a past.
That is not the first level of recognition.
Uh,
What is the first level of recognition of why you would feel so strongly magnetized and attracted and in sync with anyone else on your planet or anywhere else? Has nothing to do with past lives.
because we're connected in some way.
Because you're on the same frequency.
Okay.
That's all it is in every case, past life or otherwise,
Right.
notwithstanding. The only reason you magnetize to anyone for any reason is not because of past lives, but because you're on the same frequency. And then if there are past life connections as well, those come about after the recognition of the frequency link that is congruent in this place and time.
Okay.
Make
well,
sense?
You seem to be very in tune, and
All right.
I was just curious if there was anything flying around back there.
There are many things flying around out there. Is that a separate question?
Well, I was wondering if there was any past life thing going on that you might fill me in on.
I have just told you for now that that is not the focus you require.
Okay.
Yes, there is, but that's not the focus you require.
Okay.
That's not what keeps you immediate.
All right.
So understand that you simply now are reflecting to each other what you need to reflect because you're on the same wavelength is what keeps you in the present. To know that there are past life experiences that you, quote unquote, have had together. But of course, as we all know, time is simultaneous. You are still having these experiences.
Yeah.
That is a secondary reflection that is not without validity, but it is a secondary reflection.
Right.
Because it's not from your perspective here and now.
Well, and since it's going on simultaneously, we're picking up that as well.
Yes,
Whatever it is.
and you
Whatever
are creating it
now,
as well.
Great.
Not picking it up just from there. It's not, as you say on your planet, a one-way street.
Well, it feels very right, and I'm
All right.
fortunate to have attracted such a person.
Oh, all right. That
Now-
must say something about you.
Thank you. I think so.
Oh, all right.
Let me ask you, the humanoid
All right, I will let you.
The humanoid form seems to be a common form in our galaxy, and by humanoid I
Well,
mean...
you don't really have a comprehension of much of a percentage of your galaxy. But in general, yes, there are a number of what you call humanoid forms in your immediate neighborhood, but there's a reason for that.
Well, when I say humanoid, I just mean with
I
the
know
same
what you
structure.
mean.
Arms, legs.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
So there are others that...
There's a reason for that. Number one, remember, one of the primary reasons is that all of you contain genetic material from many of the other humanoid species in your neighborhood. In other words, you are related to them.
Right.
And that's why many of you are humanoid. The other thing is that, similar to the concept of what you are now beginning to understand that you call morphogenic fields, the idea is that in any certain section of space-time, there are certain resonances that, shall we say, give rise to one form that may become more likely an expression of consciousness than another form. Do you follow that? In other words, it is like ripples and currents and eddies in a body of water. And depending upon the ripples, the frequency, the size, and so forth, they are likely to either reinforce each other or cancel each other out. You are simply in an area of resonance electromagnetic frequency that has a tendency, because of the type of frequency, to reinforce the template, the etheric template that you recognize as the humanoid form. Does this make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. All right.
You're in that neighborhood of energy domains.
Okay.
Not that there are not many, many other forms and many other shapes, but your local neighborhood, with a few exceptions, happens in that sense to be more prone to express life similar in that form along those lines.
Okay.
Yes?
Also, I've noticed numerous smaller scoop marks on my body.
Yes?
And I'm wondering if that is genetic material that is being gathered.
Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes.
Now, if they would take that genetic material, could they possibly create clones?
It is possible.
And
We are not saying that is what is being done, but it is possible.
But wouldn't it be a great idea if they could take those clones and use them for the hybridization process and let me get some sleep?
Well, now, you know, you have hit on the truth.
I had a feeling. I really did.
Yes?
Yeah, I had a feeling. Another question. You said that the reptilian hybridization
Yes.
that happened many thousands of years ago,
Many millions.
that there was a species that gathered the genetic material from the dinosaurs and created that species off planet.
Yes.
Who might have done that?
The founders.
The founders. Are they...
They are what sometimes some of you perceive as the praying mantis type of being.
Wow. So they're
So much
pretty
for your
advanced-
humanoid form.
They're a pretty advanced race, aren't they?
They are advanced in many ways.
And what
But
is-
they are also, in many ways, incomprehensible to your human intelligence.
incomprehensible?
Yes.
Because they are so far beyond?
Because they are so alien.
Ah. Yeah, they would be a little freaky too.
If you wish to define it as freaky, we will not object.
I mean, I'm certainly much more comfortable with the idea than I was a year ago, but...
Yes. What a difference an orbit will make.
Yes, indeed. What was I thinking about? Where did the praying mantis originate?
Where? When?
Yeah.
We will ask permission to give you an answer that makes sense to you. One moment.
Thank you.
Their progenitors, which are not what they are, but that which gave them form, emerged from what you would recognize as, in your language, the black hole at the center of your galaxy. From where before that, in space and time, there is not language to translate, but of a dimension you do not understand except in your deepest, darkest dreams, not meaning that in a negative way. There is a substance of consciousness and intention in that reality that is the knife edge of intention itself, the precision of focus beyond what you can imagine in human terms, a single-mindedness of existence beyond anything that your multidimensional, multi-purpose, multi-expressive human consciousness would ever deem to be something that could exist and still allow there to be intelligence behind it. Yet it is a burning intelligence, a burning focus of consciousness, a dimension unto itself that gave birth to several kinds of forms, one form of which, emerging through these gateways you call black holes, formed the progenitors for what you now know as the founders, which are different than the progenitors, but based on silicon as a life form.
On what?
Silicon.
Silicon.
Yes.
Wow.
Does this help you? Does this translate at all sufficiently into your language to make any kind of sense?
Well, yeah, it's just obviously very profound and probably beyond
it is
our
what it
comprehension.
is. We are not meaning to say that it is any better than you or any more profound than you in the sense of being important. It is simply, however, exceedingly alien to you in terms of your understanding of yourself as a human species.
And even when we know ourselves multidimensionally, it will still be somewhat foreign to us.
Somewhat, but more familiar.
Okay.
And the more multidimensional you become, you will find that, of course, because everything is one, you contain them in the same way that they contain you, and you will have a better understanding of what they are, even as our civilization is exploring the depths of what they are and many other multidimensional beings that we originally had absolutely no comprehension of whatsoever.
I know. It is a very comforting thing to remember that we're all one.
Yes.
Really...
And, of course, never taking away from the fact that we are all individuals.
Right.
Guys.
Boy.
Girl.
So deep. I had a really profound question, and it just escaped me.
Then perhaps it has transcended to a truly profound level.
Yeah.
Let it come back as its own answer in its own good time, and let us move on to the next individual.
And I thank you so much.
Thank you. Next.
Hi.
And you good day.
I would like to share with you a series of events, which some things I definitely understand.
All right.
And others I'm not clear on, and I know you can help me with.
Maybe.
Maybe. I had a close encounter with the valet. Do you remember the valet that you have discussed with me before?
Yes.
And I was in the ocean, and this being came up to me really close, much closer than I'd ever been before.
Oh, all right.
And I was really scared at first because I wasn't sure what it was doing.
Oh, all right.
And then I realized it had so much to do with my own issues with intimacy and myself.
Very good.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then we had a great time together.
Oh, what a surprise.
Oh, what a surprise. It was really, really beautiful.
Oh, all right. 2 reallys.
2 reallys.
Really square.
Many more.
Many more.
But I was curious about this being,
this
seal.
Yes.
And what... I mean, obviously, I created this experience to look into these aspects of intimacy and
that is your mirror. Yes.
That's my mirror. What was I mirroring to this being?
The idea, first of all, is to understand that many of your sea creatures, especially those you call your dolphins, whales, and seals, will be on the first order simply knowing that they are performing a service to the awakening of the human species, which has been asleep for a long time. But, on a personal note, you are giving to that animal a reflection of memories of other lives, of other states of consciousness, and of the specific kinds of experiences that can be had by your species, for telepathically it is extracting from you many of these memories of your life on dry land, as it is also to some degree a go-between between dry land and the sea. Not quite as at home in the sea as the dolphin, not quite as at home on dry land as the human. It acts as a perfect bridge, a perfect go-between. In allowing this seal to work with you, to help you, to function as a bridge in that sense, and of course, as we have already said, to reflect to you that you are giving yourself the seal of approval, pun intended, then it will also be capable of sharing with you more intimately your experiences telepathically, emotionally. It will gain from you stories, lore, insights, experiences that it can share with others in its own way, in its own language. In that sense, you are like a fascinating storybook to the seal of new alien realms. Adventures on dry land. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Plus many other things, of course.
So this is the same.
Oh, I'm not done yet.
Oh, sorry. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Now, you also actually remind this particular seal of a familial relation, of another seal. And therefore, in that you exhibit similar vibrational qualities, this seal is getting to experience, by being connected to you, an extension of its family. You follow? It is being able to experience in another type of being altogether, other than its own kind, the sense of an extension of its actual physical genetic family.
Right. But it's the same seal I swam with that winter, right, when you told me to go in the water?
Yes.
And it's the same seal I've always swam with at this beach?
Not always,
Oh.
but for the most part, yes.
Well, this seal seems to be a loner.
Well, what have you been?
A loner.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now you can be alone together.
Yeah, we were, and it was really amazing. I was very exciting. Okay, so then that week after the swim with the seal at the beach, I went to New York, and obviously, as you know, a lot of stuff came up.
Stuff.
But it came up, and it seemed to have left me. And I felt that I brought myself back from that trip.
All right. Yes.
And just, moved on.
Moved on.
And it was interesting to me, and I was wondering about the idea of just physically bringing that part of myself back.
Yes. What about it?
Well, was it necessary? Physically?
Was it necessary?
I mean, did that play a big part in it? The fact
Yes.
that I physically went there.
Well, yes, in your case.
Uh-huh.
Nothing is ultimately necessary.
Right.
But if you feel that it is, then it is.
Okay.
If that's the move you make, then for you it is necessary. It may not be paradoxically necessary after you have done it, but obviously if you did it, you felt it was necessary enough to do it.
It was very helpful.
Well then,
Yeah, okay.
in the broadest sense of your word, it was necessary.
Okay.
But ultimately, no, it wasn't.
Right. But it worked for me, and that's
It worked for you, and that is the only definition of necessary that many of you should carry around, so to speak.
right.
Does it work for you?
Right.
Yes or no? Then it is or isn't necessary.
Okay.
You follow?
Yep.
By the way, of course, we remind you, we're not telling you what you should and shouldn't do.
Right.
Just a figure of your speech in your language.
Sure.
Yes?
Today, the last thing I just wanted to
Yes.
discuss with you,
Yes.
I left my wallet at the Starbucks.
Left your wallet at Starbucks.
Right. Which is pretty out of character for me.
Out of whose character?
Mine.
Whose character are you?
The one that's always on top of things.
On top of things.
And like keeping track of stuff.
Keeping track.
Yeah.
Like a train?
Keeping my stuff with me.
Stuff.
Yeah. Which, when it happened, I was like, oh well, bye-bye.
But
the wallet came back
Yes.
without the money, and I felt that whoever got the money needed it because I have abundance in that regard.
All right.
So I felt that it was a real,
yes,
hopefully a gift,
All
and
right.
obviously a lesson for them.
It does not, again, mean that it excuses the perpetrator for being out of their own integrity.
Right.
But you can still learn something from it and use it in a way that is a blessing to them and a lesson for you. Yes?
Right.
It doesn't mean that you have to simply allow individuals to be out of integrity and say, oh, well, they just needed it.
Right.
Yes,
I realize
you can realize that that can be the case. But you understand the fine line there that can allow you to simply accept things that are not of your frequency and let those things continue on. You can use them in a positive and constructive way, but don't necessarily assume that means that those things are representative of acts of positive integrity.
Right.
You see the difference?
No, yeah. I mean, I felt that, the way that whoever did it went about it was definitely creating a whole other chain of events with them.
Yes, of course.
For me,
For you,
it wasn't a big deal, really.
all right, you extracted from the event what it is you were all about at that moment. What it is you needed to explore at that moment, yes.
What, just like letting go of it and
Yes.
not being attached to what occurred?
Also, what is it that represents itself to you symbolically about what you call the place in which you left it? What is that place that you call Starbucks to you?
Well, I'm not addicted to coffee.
Did I say that?
No, I didn't. So it's not...
Did I ask you what it is not?
No, but I'm telling you.
No, you told me what it is not. I asked you what it is.
Okay, well, I decided to tell you what it's not first.
I know, but I didn't ask you for what it's
Okay,
not.
well, I'm trying to decipher that by telling you what it's not. So I'm getting rid of what it's not.
Oh, I see. So you're using the negative to come to the positive.
Sounds, yeah, like that's what I'm doing.
Oh, well, how synchronistic. Then that matches the event exactly, doesn't it?
Right.
So you see how your life imitates your thought process?
Right. Thank you for that.
How clever you are.
Oh, my God.
How transparent you are becoming, which is a good thing.
Thanks.
You are welcome. Does that help you? All right. Number 3. And a you good day.
I've had a very exciting, magical vacation.
Oh, all right. An exciting, magical vacation.
It really was. And is still.
And is still. Yes, all right. But not so still were you.
No.
All over the place were you.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, your goodness was all over the place.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, you said that.
When it started out with a dream that I had about you, where I have to entitle the dream, The Dragon and the Chicken Exit.
All right, understood.
And from that point forward, I started doing lots of daring things.
All right.
One of the things that I
Crossing
did...
to the other side, are you?
Yeah.
All right.
It feels wonderful.
Yes, usually does when you become more of yourself. It usually feels full of wonder. Yes?
I flew a lot.
Yes?
And it was interesting.
Appropriately metaphoric?
Yeah.
Yes?
And in flying and coming to that realization that it was my panic that would kill me
All right.
if I succumbed to it.
Yes?
And I didn't succumb to it, and then it turned into incredible beauty.
Yes. That's why we have always said it's the same context, that anxiety and excitement are the same energy. One filtered through the negative belief system, one filtered through the positive belief system. Panic and beauty are the same idea.
So, and then that was also a paradox, right?
Of course, always. When you find the center of yourself, you will always find that your life becomes a paradox. That's what lets you know you're at the center.
And I found that there's a whole other world in the air.
Yes!
Oh, and I flew like a bird.
Yes. Well, not exactly.
Well,
but yes, we understand.
It was close. It was close.
All right, close enough. You had that sense of freedom and upliftment and higher perspective and point of view.
And such awesome
What device
beauty.
did you use?
It was called an ultralight, and it's a hang glider that's motorized.
Oh, all right.
And I was
So you finally got the hang of it then, did you?
well, I sure hung on.
All right.
But yes, right, I did, because then it was ecstatically beautiful.
Yes.
And I also, I had a dream about a connection with Lazarus.
Yes. What about it?
Well, Just that I feel a lot more expanded.
All right, very good, very good.
And that reminds me of the idea of counsel.
Counsel, yes,
And
all right.
counsel within.
Yes, very good, very good.
And I went into the blue room, the cave underwater.
Yes.
And when I was in there, I was spinning.
All right.
And I felt that I was totally in the void, in the darkness, by myself, totally.
In the womb.
And I asked if there was really anybody else there.
And? Did you get an answer?
Well, at first I didn't think I did. It was just nothing. And then suddenly I felt a hand on my leg.
Yes.
It scared me totally to death.
Totally to death.
Almost.
Oh, all right. And so after the funeral, then what?
And I laughed.
Oh, all right. You came back to life.
It was the most wonderful joke I could imagine giving myself.
At that moment.
At that moment.
Yes. Remember how close we said scared and sacred were? Just the change of the sea. From scared to sacred. Just a shift in sea.
That was in the sea.
Yes. And so you were physically exemplifying the idea of scaring yourself sacred by being in the sea. Thank you.
That adds wonderful poetry to that experience.
Life is poetry.
Oh, and I feel that now.
Thank you. Yes.
One of the things that I did was I went back. Well, first of all, I saw chickens everywhere, which gave me lots of laughter throughout the whole trip.
All right.
And I have felt a very strong compulsion to be in Kalala.
All right.
And two things happened. The night before I went, both times extraordinary things happened.
Yes.
The first time I was on this remote road back in a valley,
yes.
farther back than I had ever gone before,
yes.
and in the dark by myself. And suddenly, on the roof of the car, there were these yellow eyes staring in at me.
Yes.
And it was a black cat.
All right.
That, again, scared me. Oh! But then, when I was in Kalala,
yes.
I experienced what I believe would be the most aliveness I can imagine.
Brought you back into the moment, as sometimes your people use fear to do. That's why you create roller coasters and amusement parks.
Well, it sure does.
Yes.
And when I was in Kalala and I was experiencing that degree of health and well-being and in the moment,
yes.
What frequency is that?
Per second.
What was the highest that it got while I was back there post-time?
For one brief flash, you were able to peak at one moment at 217. One moment. One moment. One moment. We have guests. No. They are aboard my craft. One moment. We are having a meeting. One moment. No offense. No ignorance of you. One moment. There is something being decided. One moment. Shift approaching, shift approaching, shift approaching. Deciding how to participate, what to do. One moment, one moment, one moment. Dispensing, in a sense, instructions as you would understand it, disseminating duties, disseminating participation frequencies. One moment. Locking to identification locations. One moment. In position, in position, in position. 3, besides myself, forming a quadrant, forming a tetrahedral structure around your planet for upcoming shiftings. Motivate. One moment. Shift complete of positioning. preparing for regulation of shifting energies. One moment, tetrahedral structure intact. 4 ships, 4 ships, 4 ships connected to all. One moment. All right, proceed. Do you have anything else to share?
Just that the last time that I went, I was back in that valley again. And
Yes.
I came around a curve, and there was before me
Yes.
a stream running down in front of me, and it was so extraordinary that it was there. And I sat in my car and I experienced the whole experience as almost being on the etheric plane.
The higher the vibration of your physical body, of course, the closer association you will feel to the etheric plane, which is on the higher resonance levels as you approach the idea of 333,000 cycles per second. Yes.
So
the more you'll be capable of sensing from the etheric plane, the blending of yourself, of the physical and the etheric, as you approach that frequency. Yes.
And there were wonderful things, like there were frogs everywhere, and this man had this long hair and beard.
Yes.
And the swans came and greeted me. I mean, it was like I was
in some senses, again, remember that as you begin to know more of yourself, then the so-called barriers that you have created that create the apparent separation between physical and etheric reality will begin to dissolve, so that you'll perceive that physical reality is literally another type of etheric dream. Just what appears from time to time to be a little bit more solid one or dense one, but made out of the same stuff nevertheless.
And that was the first time I had experienced it on the physical. And
yes.
For him, and also part of the conversation became telepathic.
Yes, as it will when you are matching those kinds of frequencies, because that is the original language. All of you are the significant event in your life. Your life, you, is the significant event. You are an event.
I understand that.
Yes, all of you. You are not, in that sense, in a life. You are the event that you allow yourself to experience as the unfoldment of a life in physical space-time terminology. You are the experience of yourself as a physical life. You are the event. You are experiencing the event of your own consciousness expressing itself that way. To begin to understand it from this perspective, break down the barriers that have been created in your consciousness that create an apparent separation between physical and non-physical reality, so that even while you may remain focused in physical reality to a great degree in fourth density, you will begin to learn how to operate in physical reality, but from the perspective of the higher etheric dimensional planes. Yes?
Well, Bernadette made it real.
That is real.
I mean, it brought it down to earth.
Paradoxically, it will.
And it was like being in some sort of a magical experience where one moment the moon was out, and one moment I looked at him, and it was like he was a troll, and I was a princess, and he said that. And then at another...
All the archetypes will come up as you integrate your consciousness to let you know that that's what you're doing. All the archetypal mirrors will reveal themselves so that you can see yourself in all the different facets of the archetypal crystal. Yes, that's another symptom of integration and merger of all the different fragments that all of you have created your consciousness to exist in for thousands of years.
And then in another moment he was standing there and he could have been Jesus Christ. I mean,
as all of you are. As all of you are Buddha. As all of you are Krishna. As all of you are one. Yes. These are all true. All truths are true. All truths exist within the one.
And it felt like there were other beings present.
You know there were. You do not have to rise your voice and make it a question.
I know. Well, okay. All right, because I'm... Well, okay, what's...
Conviction.
I believe in it.
Thank you. At this time, we must allow there to be adjustments that are made. We must allow there to be a compaction of space-time. We thank you for your sharing of this time and extend to each and every one of you that upcoming now within what you call the next span of time that you call weeks ahead, in the next month or so, or 2 or 3, much shifting, much acceleration as you create the new link and the new bridge to your new orbit, your new year coming up. Many different things will now begin to accelerate. We will help regulate what we can. You will find much will be opening and much more information will be revealing itself. Stay within the vibration that you know is your truth, and you will automatically attract yourself and magnetize yourself to those bits and pieces of information and those doorways and gateways of information that are germane and relevant for what it is you need to know to continue to expand in the direction of being yourself. It is this degree of commitment and conviction that is necessary now for you to live your truth and experience the reality that you truly prefer. We thank you for this exchange and allowing us now to co-create with you this transmission through this gateway and this window at this time, and we will for quite some time now, in terms of your counting of months, be literally, physically in our ship in proximity to your planet, along with several other members of our species to help assist with the regulation of some of the frequencies that you will now be creating and experiencing in your collective consciousness. We thank you for this opportunity and this sharing to become more intimate with each and every one of you, individually and collectively. And to each and every one of you, our unconditional love and a fond, exciting, and creative and active good day. How did it go?